So some other ideas that we can look at are rain gardens. Now, rain gardens are simply, they're basically living dry wells is what they are. They're depressions in the ground that the soil's amended. They're designed to catch water and filter it through the soil profile. And you can see how this works. The gutters and the runoff is running into the depression. These plants are plants that are designed to tolerate native plants that are designed to tolerate those big wet and dry cycles, those drastic cycles. Things like coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, native plants and grasses and shrubs that are designed to thrive in that kind of drastic changing environment. And how this works is the water fills up the depression, then it's filtered down through the soil profile, and there are some that can have drainage pipes installed under to carry excess in case the water's too much for the depression to hold. So there's lots of good ways you can do rain gardens, and there's rain gardens you can do for shade. You can do shade rain gardens with hostas and ferns. So there's lots of different options now. With installation, you would just amend the soil with compost. You're talking about 1 to 2 feet of planting soil, and then you'd have your mulch layer, and then you'd have a 6 to 12 inch ponding depth, which gives you enough to hold enough water. And again, these can be big, small. They can be at the end of your driveway to catch driveway runoff, things like that. So there's lots of different ways you can do this. And again, you would just dig there are some companies that will actually specialize in rain garden installations, or you can do it yourself. But you're just amending the soil to help encourage water infiltration into the soil profile. Now, and then of course you plant your plants and then mulch over top of it. For more information on rain gardens, I would encourage you to visit Clemson's Carolina Rain Garden Initiative website. You can just Google Carolina Rain Garden Initiative. That will come up. It provides a step-by-step video on how to create a rain garden, literally from start to finish. So I would encourage you to visit that website and go on there, and it's got some really good information on how to do that. And you can even take a class called Master Rain Gardener, where you can learn to be a master rain gardener, and you can teach other people how to build rain gardens. The Master Rain Gardener course is the Master Rain Gardener course is a certification program focused on rain garden and rainwater harvesting systems, design and installation. So I would encourage you to visit that website. Usually the class is in the fall and the spring. It's usually in the fall. So again, you can visit Clemson Master Rain Gardener to just Google Clemson Master Rain Gardener to find out where a class is in your area. It's usually online, and you can also find out more information by visiting that website. All right, erosion prevention. All right, we've talked about drainage systems. Now let's look at erosion prevention for stormwater. So one thing you can do is dry creek beds. These are a very good way if you just need to, let's say you've got water that's just moving across your property and you're just trying to keep it from eroding more and more of your property. One thing you can do is install a dry creek bed, and these come in. This is where your imagination can come wild. Basically, it's a pretty drainage ditch, is what it is. So, what you would do here is you've got an underlayment like rubber fabric or landscape fabric, and then you would line that with pea gravel, or you can use riprap gravel or quarter-inch gravel, and then you can use river gravel or pea gravel as decorative on top, and then of course you can place your large stones just for decorative purposes, and of course your plants along the side. The underlayment starts pretty easy. You can see this is probably the biggest one of the easiest things you can do to help reduce erosion on your property and just direct the water where you want it to go. And you could even tie these into a rain garden or a drainage system at the end. But essentially what you do is you lay your underlayment down, your rubber fabric, landscape fabric, and then you put your rocks in, and then put your large stones in for decorative purposes and to help break the water up. And then fill it with gravel, your decorative gravel, and plant your plants around it. And that's it. And so when the water comes in, when the rain happens now, the water's going to rush through the dry creek bed. It helps prevent erosion, more erosion, and it also helps with zone transitions from turf to woody areas or to landscape areas. So it's a very good way to help reduce erosion on your property and be in a decorative form. Again, the sky's the limit on imagination. You can have shaded creek beds. You can have sunny creek beds. You can use old containers and old pots to make it look like a true old creek bed. You can use driftwood. There's lots of different things you can do, and your creativity is your limit. And of course, you can do terracing. This is becoming more and more popular nowadays, especially when they're building neighborhoods on hillsides and building anywhere they can build, it seems like. You can terrace areas off. Of course, with terracing, you'd have to put in some drain pipes to help carry some of the water behind the retaining walls away from the wall. So if you're going to do terracing, I would recommend you get a good contractor that has done it before. So make sure you kind of know what you're getting into. This is a little more advanced level. And of course, you can use lots of different materials like wood or stone. You can even use these man-made bricks now. These concrete bricks, they're becoming more and more popular. So there's lots of different options for you. And natural stone always looks best, but it looks good. But again, it all depends on your budget, what you want to do, your final goal. Now, retaining walls, this is where it gets a little interesting. If you're using retaining walls with terracing, you need to check with your local ordinances to make sure that your contractor knows that what the regulations are, because sometimes there are some engineering requirements. Basically, I believe if it's over 4 feet, you have to have an engineer to approve the wall, do a little design for the wall. And that sounds bad, you'd say, well, that's expensive, but actually it's a little bit of insurance, because that way it's done properly, it's going to be, solid. And also, you want to make sure they're putting drain pipe behind the wall to help carry water away from that wall so it doesn't flush out. I can tell you, my sister-in-law over in Tennessee fell victim to that. The contractor did not use an engineer, and it was definitely above 4 feet, the retaining wall was. And before they closed on the house, thank goodness, the wall collapsed, and literally a mudslide came into the house. And of course, they backed out of the house deal, but the contractor had to fix that for the next buyer. So again, sounds scary getting an engineer, but in some cases it's worth it. And obviously for installation, you'll make sure they're doing a good solid foundation. Again, you can see in this picture they're putting drain pipe behind the wall to help for drainage. And again, for every foot, you want to make sure that you're making it level. You want to make sure that, again, you're packing that gravel behind it down and good. Again, even if it's below 4 feet or even if it's 1 foot high, I would still recommend putting drain pipe behind it. Just again, to help make sure that water doesn't get behind that retaining wall and push it out. So again, this is something that you can do by yourself if it's below a certain height, but I would strongly encourage you to look at hiring a professional that's done this before, that does this all the time, that knows what they're doing. That way, you make sure it gets done correctly, and you only have to do it once. The last thing you want to do is have to go in and rebuild a wall that you've already paid for that you got to pay for again. And how do you know if they've done it before? Ask them. How many walls have you done total? What's the highest wall you've done? What's the most difficult one you've ever done? Ask them questions. Interview them. You're paying them, so interview them. All right, so now let's look at some other strategies and tools that you can use. You can use aerating. So aerating, it sounds like it's kind of like, wait a minute, how's that going to help my drainage? Well, keeping good aeration and reducing soil compaction can help water infiltration in your lawn, and can really help with filtering, water infiltration and better percolation through the soil profile. So consistent aeration at least once a year. So, and we say once a year is more than sufficient for most lawn grasses. No more. You don't want to go more than every 3 years without aerating. So at least every 3 years, but preferably once a year, you want to aerate your lawn. If you're aerating warm season grasses like Bermuda, zoysia, you want to do that during May through June, or when they're actively growing. If you got fescue, you're going to want to do that in September, or you can get away with it in February, but ideally you want to do that, or excuse me, you can get away with it in March, but ideally you want to do that in September, in the fall. You can also top dress organic matter. A lot of folks want to top dress lawns with sand. What you do when you do that, you create a perched water table, especially if you have clay, because the sand allows the water to filter down, but it hits the clay layer and it can't go anywhere. It has a harder time moving through the soil profile. So what we'd rather you do, and what's recommended, is you use organic matter like compost, or 2 parts compost and 1 part sand, and that's what you top dress with. That way, you build up that organic layer, you build up that soil profile, and it helps create more soil aggregates to allow for better water infiltration into the soil profile. So you can buy compost from online sources, or you can have it delivered, and you can mix it with sand yourself. You can even buy pre-made sand and compost mixtures. I wouldn't go more than 50% compost, 50% sand. But usually we try to recommend a 2-part compost and 1 part sand mixture. Or you can go 100% compost. You can also use permeable drives and patios and paths. So you can now get permeable pavement that's designed to help water infiltrate the pavement over driveways and patios. This is becoming more and more popular, especially in the coastal areas. So it's very effective at capturing a lot of stormwater, and it's one small thing. So if you're redoing your driveway, or if you're redoing a patio, you might consider doing something like this to help keep stormwater from building on your patio, on your driveway, and help reduce pollution. And also, it looks great. A lot of these are they're very decorative. So there's lots of different options you have out there. And of course, you have mulch paths, you have gravel paths you can do. Those always help help water infiltrate the soil. So there's lots of different methods that you can use nowadays. Well, that's it for our free little video on dealing with drainage and stormwater in the landscape. We hope you enjoyed it. For more information, you can go to for more information, you can go to clemson.edu/HGIC for our Home and Garden Information Center. And you can also stay right here on our Facebook page and find out more of our classes. And you can always come by and see us. We always have classes going on. So I encourage you to come by and see us and drop in and hopefully get some more good information. And we hope you've learned something and enjoyed it.